Hello and welcome, nerds. We're doing another episode in this series where I'm going through the Strixhaven's colleges. If you haven't seen this, kind of I don't remember, fourth or fifth video in a series where I'm talking about how I run the colleges from Strixhaven. If you haven't watched the first video, it's kind of important. The first video is like how I do the overall running of the session. This is specifically how I run the classroom part of those sessions. So I'll put a link in the bottom if you haven't seen that yet. I recommend checking that out first. Otherwise, maybe some of this won't make the most sense, but that's fine. If you don't want to watch it, don't. Just hold on and let's check this out. So the first thing we have here is just like what does the classroom actually look like? What's the layout? Where is it? What's going on? So I kind of imagine the Quandrix classrooms as being like your almost like prototypical high school science or college laboratory classroom with just a magical twist. So the idea being it's probably somewhere in like a forested area. It's kind of the vibe I get from Quandrix, but like less forested than Witherbloom, but like still not in the middle of, say, a more industrial area. There's some kind of intermittent zone that's got kind of the vibe of both. So kind of got this domed building, this interesting, highly open, lots of glass, lots of windows, can still see into nature. But then you have all the lab equipment, and then you just have these floating geometric magical shapes in the air. And here in the image we're seeing on the screen, it's all spheres, but like I'm imagining it could be basically anything. It could be any prismatic 3D shape kind of just oscillating in space above the students, just depending on what they're doing, maybe reacting to what they're doing. That's the kind of vibe that I get from the classroom. In terms of the activities that you do in the classroom, I've broken it down into, we'll just go over all of them and then we'll kind of jump back and dig into each one a little bit. So there's problem solving, laboratory work, and then thesis defense. Very straightforward. This is maybe the kind of the cleanest of the classrooms in terms of stepping through it. It doesn't really make a ton of sense to do these out of order. And that's intentional. Quandrix is meant to be kind of a highly ordered classroom. So the intention here, although I don't outline it specifically, I don't say you have to do this. The intention when I was thinking about these activities is that you really would step through them in the natural intended order. So, what is problem solving? Okay, problem solving is quite simply math, magical math problem solving. Use nature checks. Oh, I know that seems weird. Why nature? Because in my mind, nature checks are used to do anything involving principal sciences, so like the nature of reality. So it's not just nature as in kind of the prototypical or borderline stereotypical, trees, green things, do a nature check. Animal, do a nature check. Nature is physics, biology, chemistry, these things. That's what nature is in my brain. So that's what we're using to solve problems. And then laboratory work is, as you might imagine, is intended to be the more practical version of problem solving. Now that you can do the math, let's actually put the math to work. And that's Arcana. See, we went from DC 10 plus basically two times your year. So if you're in first year, it's a 12, second year, 14. We go up by two, so we go to 14, 16. And the idea is here you're basically doing experiments that put the problem solving stuff you did to work here. Okay, and then finally, thesis defense. Oh, a huge jump. So my idea here is that something about Quandrix, they really expect you to be able to iterate and innovate on the principles of magic in a way that the other schools don't really care about. It's a little less. You might think of it as being a little more or less artistically expressive and more intellectually expressive. Is kind of the idea I was going for. So thesis, we're going up to 14 plus year, and then spell level -3. So this is kind of the neat thing. The thesis is based around the spell that they're trying to uh, they're trying to do their thesis around. Like basically, if you read this, it'll talk about the possibility of creation of a spell, or studying a spell. That's what you get with this. So the idea is that you should be able to do it at lower years. It shouldn't matter what year you're in to do this part. It's just as you want to do increasingly difficult spells, the skill check scales with it. So ninth level is pretty rough, for example. So ninth level, we get 6 here, and then say you have to be in maybe your 5th year because you're not even gonna have the access to spells that could do that stuff. So then that puts this into a 4 or 5. So you're at 19 plus 6 is 25. Pretty good spell DC. Whereas if it's a first level spell, this actually goes negative. This is -2, right? So it actually is easier than some of the other work. So the idea is like really should probably be starting around a 3rd level spell, but if maybe for some reason that's too difficult, you could slump down to second or first and actually have a pretty easy time with their thesis. But you know, as someone who's like grading your thesis, they might hold that against you. But that's all, you know, meta in-game world stuff for you to decide. Okay, so what do you get for doing this stuff? How do you make these things easier? So with all of these, there's this reduce the DC by 4 that you can do by using specific abilities or spells. So our learned spells for the section we get is essentially this is what we get for doing the different activities. After 5 successful problem solvings, you can learn any first level conjuration, abjuration, or illusion spell. Haha! And then if you use that spell while doing that activity, you reduce the DC by 4. Same thing with laboratory work, but now we bump to second or third level. And then finally, thesis defense is 4th, 5th, or 6th level conjuration, abjuration, or illusion. I do think it's fine to do 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells in here as well. It's just they'll be very, very difficult to succeed on with this skill check 10 times. So if someone's willing to invest and take that risk, I say go for it. But I just as a rule, I just wrote 4th, 5th, and 6th because that's kind of like it's kind of like the rules as the written version in my mind. But this is all just guidelines in my brain. Cool, that's all super dope. So we get the access to these cool spells, and then you're mastering skills. So if you've watched other videos, you know that one of the things I do is I like to throw the ability checks on their heads. So every time you pass a class, and by pass a class, essentially you just get enough successes in one of these, and that passes one of your classes. If you have 3 classes, you need to do one of these activities. You need to max out one of these activities 3 times, or any combination of them. When you do that, as long as you pass a class, you unlock the ability to master a skill. And for this lets us change the base ability for the skill checks. But there's very limited selection for Quandrix. So Quandrix is very specific. So you can change nature to be based on wisdom, and you can change persuasion to be based on intelligence, and that's it. Those are your only 2 options. The way this works, I'll cover this really quickly because, again, I talked about this in other videos. Every time you get this mastering skill, you get a +1 in that skill until you get to +3, and then you become proficient. If you're already proficient and you get the +1, and then if you get to +3 again, you get expertise, and then you're done. You can't put more points in that skill. Simple as that. Okay, cool. What do you get if you actually graduate from the college? Pretty awesome. I really like this one. So as a graduate for the Quandrix College, you'll have nearly mastered a comprehension of mathematical and logical aspects of all spellcasting that grants you ability Efficient Caster. Haha! So this is a passive skill that essentially allows you to use lower level spell slots, first, second level spell slots, in conjunction with third level or higher slots. This should be higher. Spelling error. That will let you upcast spells. So instead of using 1 spell slot, which is the rules is written in D&D per round, barring some special abilities, you can use 2 spell slots to cast a single spell. With any combination of first and second, and then anything third or higher. So you can use a 1st level spell slot and a 3rd to cast a 4th level spell, a 2nd and a 6th to cast an 8th level spell, so on. This is very cool. It lets you really make a lot of use of those lower level spell slots in combat, in particular, at higher levels of D&D. Okay, and then we have this. This is a Ravnica tie-in. If you're not super interested in this, you can just ignore it. But essentially, my setting is based in Ravnica, and the players have found themselves magically in Strixhaven as teenagers once again. And the tie-in here is that there was a prime speaker once upon a time in Ravnica from the Simic Combine who now offers a scholarship to attend Strixhaven School. And as always, I have the report card. Sure, I'll show it. Why not? If you haven't seen this, you're more than welcome to grab this. I'll have the link to the content, as always, above. So that's essentially it. That's the Quandrix College laboratory classroom content. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know if you're running Strixhaven, if you find this stuff useful, things yourself that you found useful that I didn't touch on, or that you think would be cool for me to do. And of course, if you like this stuff, you can always drop on to coffee.com and, make this stuff affordable to make. Anyways, that's it. That's it for me. Hopefully you like this guy, and I will see you in the next one.